afternoon. Welcome to A Blind Insight, and it's not a repeat. we're back for another hour of hopefully enlightening discussion with some cracking music thrown in for good measure. So I'm Simon Hill, and he's Billy Spateman. How are we?
I'm all right. Not too bad. Not too bad.
It's well, just saying, it feels like ages since we did one of these.
Did one.
I've had a visit from COVID, so that
have you?
that knocked me about for a couple of weeks.
Well, I had my double jab yesterday, so both my arms are aching like mad. Because I said, can you put them all in one arm, and then it'll only be one arm that aches? No, we have to put them in both. So they both ache.
Well, yeah. So we'll, but it's we're going to talk about a few things today. It seems like a long time ago already, but kind of. Off the back of the Paralympics, which was, when was it, end of August. I just wanted to talk a bit about obviously how we all see and people talk about the people who hit the heights at the Paralympics, but of course the spectrum is much broader than that, and there's lots of people who may not compete at that sort of level but yet still want to access sport or access fitness facilities, and that on its own can bring challenges. So, and I've certainly had that experience myself. So we'll talk a bit about that, and to fend off the madness that seems to continuously surround us, we'll be administering another dose of common sense when we'll be discussing our dear politicians and what I would describe as their ludicrously lavish gifts. So the Paralympics was, another good show or a good demonstration of the abilities that disabled people have when it comes to various sports, despite their whatever their disadvantage or disability may be. I always think that it's kind of a shame that the certain sports do seem to get more coverage than others, i.e. the swimming and the athletics seem to dominate, but there are a lot of others out there. Did you watch much of it? I
probably watched as much of the Paralympics as I did the Olympics, because I just find it fascinating. I've got no idea what's going on in terms of how they classify everything. You know, T10s and T8s and
I have
and then
to
you
have
look
it
at
down. I think.
Yeah, they sort of start a race or in the pool, and you think, well, that bloke's miles better, can run miles better than that bloke. So why is he in the same race? So why is he in the same race? So it must be incredibly complicated. And they change them, don't they? Quite often, the classification.
I've always thought it was bad enough or difficult enough just in the world of blind sport, where you're trying to confirm how much people can see, because for some reason you've got people who insist on telling you they can't see as much as they actually can to get an advantage. And so that's bad enough or complicated enough. So to try and figure out how to get people into a fair category, as it were, based on, and especially when it's multiple issues. If it's a simple okay, they've got they're an amputee or a one leg amputee or a one arm amputee, that's fairly straightforward. But if they're a one arm amputee, but then they've got whatever else as well, it's I don't envy the people who have to categorise it all. But I read and hear some of the people talking about the support they get and how they all the training they put in and this, that, and the other. And it always makes me sort of think that that's great, but I just think it has to be remembered that not just because you happen to have disability, it doesn't mean that you're going to be deemed or deemed good enough or have the the support you need, or the because again, it's however hard it may be for able-bodied athletes to get support, funding, whatever it may be, it's even harder for for disabled sport, and it's one of those situations where you kind of have to prove yourself before you get any support. And
it must be, and they seem to, I don't know if it's right, but they seem to swap sports quite often, don't they? Whereas you get an athlete and it's an athlete. With them, they'll do athletics, or then they might do swimming the next time, and then they'll go on the bikes and they'll do something else. It's just incredible, really. And I suppose everything becomes another challenge, doesn't it, for them?
Well, I guess so. I mean, I guess if you've got that sort of, and I guess maybe it's a sort of certain sports are maybe got more of a longer. You can maybe do them a bit longer as you get older, maybe, or because they don't quite demand so much on the body, maybe, or of course, you might pick up a certain injury, which means that you find a certain sport you can't do as well anymore, but then you can change to something else. So, or sometimes they might just want to change. You do something for a few years, think, I'm a bit bored of this now, I'll do something else.
And I suppose in terms of some of the ones that have got MS or something, if the illness becomes worse, then you've got to find something that you can apply yourself to, really, to adapt the sport that you were doing. You may not be able to do that anymore. So,
well, that's it. I mean, I always think that, however frustrating, aggravating, and downright infuriating being totally blind is, at least I know it ain't gonna go any worse or get any worse. That no more damage can be done. Whereas if if you've got a health condition, or where it must be really difficult to keep it out of your mind when you think, well, this is going to deteriorate, or I'm not going to be able to do this for very long, or you get to a point where you could do something and now you just can't do it, and which happens in all sorts of situations. Is the same thing.
And of course, technology is coming, particularly when they've got prosthetics and all that. I mean, the blades that they run, the technology in the blades now is unbelievable. I think there was I don't know if he was a Brazilian, young sprinter or something, and even the commentators were saying, he's got this new so-and-so blade that gives him an advantage over the others because they're still using this blade, and his has been perfected, and it's just incredible, isn't it? And of course they have to be custom made, don't they? Obviously.
Well, it's the for the individual to fit the individual. I don't know enough about it, but I'd imagine to fit the individual, and obviously to do what they want them to do, but yeah, I mean, it's always a bit of a grey area for me, that, because then you're bringing in technology, as it were, into the sport, and then it's a bit like which obviously you have it in sport. Formula One, for example. If sometimes a car's got a better engine or something, it's obviously quicker, things like that. But I guess it's just another factor that they have to monitor, and if an advantage is blatantly obvious or too great, then they'd have to address it.
I can remember, is it Johnny, who was the sprinter, Johnny somebody or other, who'd won it twice, and he was fourth or fifth, and he said, well, I was messing about with my blades myself, and it was my fault because I cocked it up. I should have stayed with what I was. I always used, but I just thought this will give me a bit of an advantage, and it didn't, because they didn't fit properly, really, he said. So I was almost like holding back in order to be able to run on this new blade. So it must be absolutely incredible. But I mean, it's certainly the same as normal athletics, where they have the shoes made specifically for them, and in a particular thing, and they decide what track they're going to be running on and change the shoes because the track's springier or faster or slower or whatever. It's just, and I mean, the argument is there's got to come a point certainly in the quick races, that there's got to come a point where you can't go any faster. It's impossible to go any faster.
Well, you'd think so, but but they seem to keep eking out tenths of a second, and I mean, I can't remember how many world records were broken at this year, but and the thing is, now it's so, and with sport, if you've got the backing of everything you do can be analysed, and data, and and they try and find how you can gain a hundredth of a second here, or and so there's more technology now, more analysing goes on, and more data, and so it's very.
I don't know how you can sort of quantify it between. I mean, the tracks now are incredible, and the Olympic one, they said, this is a really, really fast. Well, if you watch the Diamond League, they'll say, there won't be any records broke tonight because this is a slow track.
Yeah, that always puzzles me. I mean,
what do you mean, a slow track?
Yeah, surely it's down to the people who are running on it. But it's always interesting.
But I suppose it's the same as in all sports, in it. But you think, well, How can you say, I don't know, the 1,500 metres world record equates to Roger Bannister when he ran on grass with old spikes, and this bloke has got everything going for him and a pacemaker, which is something you'd never have in the old days, would you?
Well, and that's the thing, and this is why it's one of the things I hate when people start comparing in any sport, different generations to each other, because it's just I get why they do it, but it's just a pointless exercise for me. It's like trying to compare, a car that was built 50 years ago with one that was built today. It just isn't. That there's more knowledge, there's more understanding, there's more science. There's half the people who competed, had to do their training around other things and other, even jobs, and yeah, I know there are still some athletes who aren't necessarily full time, but by and large they are these days. But yeah, but like I say, it shouldn't also be forgotten that there are, that people who just simply who either don't, we can't all be Olympic athletes, or but that doesn't mean that we, and that's the thing with in the world of disability, there seems to be a massive gap between the Paralympics or international or elite sport and then grassroots. There's really not anything in between. So I mean, like, with my experience with football, there's, like I say, bizarrely, I ended up playing for England before I'd played for any club. That's so that there's really, and even now there's very little. There's more international. There's more of an international structure than there is in a grassroots structure. And
well, I saw on the news about the women's World Cup coming up for the disabled, and it was just women that met at the Eurovision Song Contest, and they sort of thought it'd be a bit cool if we played football, And these haven't got prosthetics. If they've only got one leg, then they use the crutches, and to kick the ball, they've got to balance on the crutch and kick the ball. And you look at it and you think, well, that's incredible, but they ain't. It's wonderful that they can do it, but they've never played football. One woman said, I've never played football in my life. He said, but this is really fun. And to wear the badge of my country is incredible. And part of you admires it, but the other part think, well, there's nobody else that wants to play anyway. So,
well, it's that, but also, that's you go that to go and representing your, and like I said, representing your country, but equally, I'd be interested to know how they, because there's got to be some sort of clarification. People who've got artificial limbs compared to if they've actually got crutches. Taking them on the pitch, you could soon see that developing into, giving people a whack with your crutch instead of.
Yeah, they showed them I don't know where they were at St George's training. And none of them had got any prosthetics. They'd all got crutches. Yeah. So whether that's part and parcel of that game that they do, it's not for people who wear prosthetics. For people who,
maybe it's a different.
Yeah, it's a different thing. But it just was so bizarre to see him passing, like balancing, swinging, and passing into somebody just with the one leg. It was just incredible.
I was thinking, how would you tackle anybody? You've got to use one foot to balance and then try and...
Well, it's like you say, they just clout him with a stick, don't they?
Yeah.
But it was really interesting, and good luck to them, because the World Cup, I think, is in about 3 or 4 months' time somewhere, and they've got to raise £50,000. Now, to me, if the FA can't subsidise them, then that's a bad show. If they've got to try and, that group's got to try and raise the money themselves, then that's a poor show, really.
Well, it happens a lot, unfortunately, with disabled sports, and even, it was before my time, for example, but when the blind team first started, that was basically started by some people from the blind college in Hereford, and then they basically had to go to any tournaments. There were some tournaments, but only quite small at the time. But they had to raise it and pay for it. The FA actually didn't come on board until after a good sort of, I think it was about 7 or 8 years or something. So once again, they had to, and even then, that once they came up, they would pay for travel and accommodation to tournaments, but that was it. So there is still this struggle with disabled sport, where you have to sort of try and get to a certain level yourself to get noticed, and then you might get some backing and support. But yeah, I don't know why the FA still back or fund a number of disabled teams, but I don't know. That, off the top of my head, I can't remember. I think there was an amputee team. I don't know whether it stopped or something, but yeah, that there's. It'd be a shame if if they can. I mean, 50.
I'm sure some wealthy businessman's going to prop them up and that and get them over there, because it seems such a shame that they've all got together now, and nothing's going to happen with it unless they can get this back in.
But just to finish off this sort of segment, I just wanted to sort of explain that for like in my position, for example, I'm getting to the stage now where my body's sort of shouting at me if I play football, and I'm thinking, well, I'm running around after people who are half my age, and I feel a bit silly about it. Whereas, but so actually, what I enjoy more now is going for a bike ride. But of course, I can't just get on a bike and go myself. I've got my own tandem, but at the moment, I've only managed to find one person who's willing to ride with me. So of course, I'm absolutely reliant on when he can be free. So, and then there's other examples. If you want to go swimming as a blind person, you can't. If you were brave enough to rock up at a swimming pool or a gym or whatever, and say I want to swim, then there'd be the fear of insurance and lawsuits would crack in, and you'd
put the fear of God into the assistants and everything, wouldn't you? No, we can't take you to the pool.
So there you go. Once again, unless you can find somebody to go with you, then you can't do it. And equally, over the years, it's like me. Like now, I've gone back to using a gym because I really struggled to get myself motivated to train on my own. And apart from anything else, it's boring. I prefer to have someone to talk to while I'm doing it, whatever. But again, I can't just turn up and use a public gym. I don't happen to have anybody who's up for going with me. So therefore, I have to pay for a personal trainer, and that, of course, isn't cheap. So there are all these little things that able-bodied people take for granted. If they want to do something, they go and do it. And whereas sometimes, as a disabled person, it's not because you haven't got the will or the desire to do something active. It's the simple fact that you can't do it without some assistance from other people, and unfortunately, they're not always able or available or willing to give that assistance.
With your bike riding, have you tried the clubs like Alzheimer's Bike Club and that? See if they do, because they do a program on extra, so they might.
Yeah. Well, I think. I can try again, but basically, I tried. I won't name names, but yeah, I've tried one of the local clubs, and again, I got basically the insurance risk thing. And again, of course, I mean, it's even like joining the walking group. Yes, you can join a walking group, but unless you are confident enough to to walk along on your own, or someone's then got to be brave enough or feel, I'll guide you, no worries. But turning up with a group of strangers and just hoping that a stranger will take that kind of responsibility, which it is to them, isn't always easy. And but it's something I keep persisting with the local cycle clubs. But of course, it always comes back to do they happen to have somebody that's willing to tandem ride? Because a lot of times, it depends how serious they take you. But a lot of cycle club members like to go and do certain routes or whatever, and of course they want to do. They like to time themselves, or depending how serious they take it, or they like the sort of groups they cycle with, and. So it's, and sometimes you just don't get an answer. As simple as that if you ask. So it is hard. But what I would say to people is if you're listening and thinking that you would like to help out people who to do sport or do anything active, then you can contact me and for a start, or of course you can always look at your local charities. The Beaker Centre for the Blind, for example, who support blind people, or obviously if you are a member of a club, a cycling club or running club, whatever it may be, if it's something you'd be interested in doing, then look into your local charities, because there's always disabled people who need supporting with doing sporting things as well as the more mundane stuff. I think there's always a bit of assumption as well that they think, oh, you need support, you need help with, I don't know, looking after yourself, cooking or this, that, and the other. But sometimes it's no, I can take care of that myself. It's the getting out there doing something active that's difficult. So that's something to ponder. I just before we finish this bit, I forgot your charity football match.
Oh yeah, charity football match. Yeah. We played Sons, which are one of our charities. It's the bereavement. Young Babs Bereavement Charity for the men, and they have a football team as part of their, I suppose, therapy, really. And so Tividale Football Club were brilliant. We had a great day with them. We lost 3-2. I was publicly blamed for us losing 3-2, mainly because our centre forward was coming through to equalise, and he shot and it knocked me over and prevented the goal, really. But we had a great day. We had a great day. Everybody came and gave up the time. We played in the club afterwards. I think we raised about 920 quid on the day. And it's now going to become an annual thing. Sands asked if they could play us again next year. Tividale Football Club said, yes, you can have the pitch. So we've got a shield. We had a winner's shield. I had a shield made that we've got in here to display with their name on the first badge, and then we gave them a duplicate smaller shield. So it was a great day. We had a great time, everybody. And the referee was a professional referee, and he came over at half time and said, this is amazing, really. He says, I thought this was just going to be a complete and utter farce. He says, but it's quite a good game, really. Yeah. And we only had a couple of injuries. Poor old Ian Murray ran on the pitch, turned to get the ball and popped his calf, so he lasted about 35 seconds. And apparently 2 of their players had to have a week off after the game. So I don't know what they'd done, but when I met up with Jake, who runs their group, he said, oh yeah, we had 2 of the lads. One had shin splints, and I don't know what the other one had, but they had to have a week off anyway. But it was great. It's great, and it'll be done again next year. Just got to rope some players in again.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you might have put a few off this time, but no, good stuff. How long did you play in the end? Because I
played about 35 minutes in the first half, which was all right, and about 25 in the second half, and I ran on for the last corner, thinking we'll just send everybody on. We sent about 16 players on for the last corner, and he blew the whistle before the corner, which was a bit of a nasty thing to do, because we might have scored. You never know.
Well.
Yeah, but we'll get our revenge next year.
Yeah, and you'll just have to make sure you don't get in the way of your own striker shooting this time.
Well, it was quite funny, really, because I played in my cap, because I always wear a cap, and there was a big centre half that was marking me, and he says, what you got your cap on for, mate? And I went, you'll find out in a minute. Of course, I went off on a run to the left, threw my cap to the right, and he followed me, and I said, what are you doing? And he says, I'm following you, you're running for the ball. I went, no. You're supposed to be following the cap. That's my decoy, so I can get to the ball before you. And you could see him being really puzzled, thinking, I don't quite get this. But it was fun. It was loads of fun. Everybody had a great time.
Good stuff. Well, talking of fun, there's we have to laugh about it, really. But it's time to fend off the madness with a dose of common sense.
Farewell to reason and balanced debate, informed discussion and admitting your mistakes. Come on in, arrogance, there's no need to repent. Goodbye, common sense. Oh, farewell, equality and sharing the common good. Send your scant regards to the unwashed and misunderstood. Hello, you power-hungry man of eminence. Goodbye, common sense. Or send me a postcard from wherever you go. Tell me what it's like there, I really want to know. 'Cause the world's gone insane ever since you've disappeared. Hey, common sense, how I wish you were here. Take it away, Jim. I'm going home. Yeah. Come back, come back, come back, come back. Yeah. Maybe the view is good there, but we need you to come home. 'Cause we're lost in the wilderness and we're feeling all alone. Whatever we said or did, please don't take offense. Oh, come back, common sense. Oh, send me a postcard from wherever you go. Tell me what it's like there, I really wanna know. And the world's gone insane ever since you disappeared. Hey, common sense, how I wish you were here. Hey, common sense, yeah, I wish you were here.
Yes. So I think, well, it's been rumbling on now. It feels like for weeks, but it's baffled me, and so I thought it was worthy of us discussing it in this segment today. So, our dear old politicians, and frankly, I'm astonished really by the amounts of money that people seem to be willing to give them for. Well, you know, who knows what, but yet they don't seem to get the fact that it's not always. They keep saying, "Oh, I didn't break any rules," but they don't get the fact that it's not always about whether you've broken or bent any rules. It's how what you do is perceived by people, and whether you like it or not. When you're in a position of power and responsibility, your behaviour is going to be scrutinised, and I just find it astonishing. I mean, I haven't got all the numbers in front of me to quote, but what was it? We've heard around £16,000 worth to secure on clothes.
Secure on clothes, and for his wife. I mean, why give his wife clothes? Why? She's his wife.
Well, what's the point?
It just baffles me. And he has the gall then to say, "Well, I've paid back £6,000." I mean, what we're supposed to say? Oh, what a wonderful bloke.
Well, more to the point, I'm pretty confident if you added up everything I've spent on clothes, or before that my parents spent on clothes for me, I'm pretty confident it wouldn't come to anywhere near £16,000.
No.
And apart from anything else, why do you need people to give you the money? Don't you earn enough?
Yeah. It just baffles me. It's only the same. I suppose it's the same as a sportsman who goes into a bar, and I can always remember the David Beckham documentary where he used to go to the restaurant in Spain or Portugal, and the bloke was going, "Oh, they'd have the meal," and then he'd go, "It's all right, David, it's all right," and he went, "No, it's not all right.
Yeah.
If I can't pay, then I'm not coming."
Yeah.
It's lovely to come here. We love coming here, but I don't need handouts. I've got the money to pay, and I quite respected him for that.
You need the money more than I do.
Yeah, and it's the same. It's the same as, and you're not getting political or anything, but it's the same as anybody in any field. You're going to have your perks, and it's up to you to decide whether that perk is morally right or not. And if you are the leader of the country, and somebody can phone up and argue the toss why you should or shouldn't, you don't need it, so there's no need for you to have it.
But then to be sort of almost, they give the attitude, like, what's your problem? When people why? But why put yourself in that position? It just all you have to say is, look, well, if you really want to donate to the party, or donate to, don't give it to me. Yeah. But yet they take, and then what was it? Then we had the thing. Oh, his son had to go to or go and revise in a multi-million-pound mansion of someone's or something because the press being outside his. I think, well, could he not have gone to
just stick his headphones on,
or gone to the local library? Which is what most people would have to do.
Yeah,
and then they turn around and go, "Oh yes, we understand the predicament that people are in." They clearly don't.
No, they're not of the real world, and it doesn't matter how you look at it. They're just not of the real world,
and I just don't understand how they. I mean, I've said it before on this show. It scares me. It really does. The advice they must get, because if I was an advisor, I'd be saying, look, never mind. You may not have broken any rules, but the point of the matter is, there's people out there who are struggling to. You've just told them that the energy bills are going to go up again. Or that they're struggling to pay the bills. And here you are having people throwing money at you for whatever reason. You don't need it, but you've taken it, and so you've got to think how this looks. And then of course we move along to and then there was a similar sort of thing with Rachel Reeves as well. I mean, you'd think as the Chancellor, she keeps telling us she understands about the financial predicament. Well, that's easy for you to say when you're being given all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then. Then we come to Angela Rayner, who she keeps telling us, or she thinks that she connects with the public because she keeps calling herself I'm working class, and and I drag myself up I left school with no qualifications, etc., etc. But yet then she goes to Ibiza and accepts about £800 in freebies there, and you're thinking, well, again. If people are offering it you, okay, that's up to them, but you don't have to accept it.
No, that's the crux. You don't have to accept it, and people would think a lot better of you if you didn't accept it. Really.
And again, whether you like it or not, yes, okay, you can argue that whatever your position is, you should be able to have your downtime or whatever. Well, yes, of course, but equally, again, like I say, you have to accept the fact it goes with the territory that when you're in such a position, and especially when you're preaching to others. About I mean, let's rewind a bit. We never heard the end of when Boris had the Downing Street flat redecorated.
Yeah.
And I mean that was their flat. It wasn't his own. It was. So the hypocrisy of it all just blows my mind as well.
I think, and the reality of it is, I mean, I watched I think it's just brilliant. The BBC political head of the politics at the BBC, and he just ties him in knots, but he never gets an answer out of him on anything. And the classic was when there was the folks that whistleblowed to him about all the expenses, and he said something like, "Do you think this is a reflection on how you felt in the party?" And he said, and then he goes off on a tangent talking about something else. He went, "What you've got to understand is people from within your party met me in a pub 2 weeks ago to tell me about all of these things that were going on. Don't you think that's a bit, they lack confidence in you by doing that?" Completely ignored what he'd asked him and started talking about something else. But that's the way that they're trained, isn't it? That's the way people in politics are trained. Don't answer the question if it's a difficult question.
But that's what, it astounds me, really, like I said, the advisors, the people, and I really, really worry that, like I said, if I was being given that advice, it would, alarm bells. I'd think, well, hang on a minute, they keep saying, they want to get in to serve. Well, then you're not demonstrating that by not giving straight answers and by, accepting, ridiculous amounts of money and gifts or whatever it may be, which, let's just open it up a bit. They could easily, because why would it be wrong to consider them as bribes? I mean, who knows? You're accepting these things off these people. Yeah. What do they want in return?
Yeah. And I mean, we won't just, you ain't got to just tar the Labour Party.
Oh, no,
it's just rife across it. Any person in power can use its power to manipulate wherever they want, really. But I just think they're quite naive when they I mean, to me, they should have realised that it's much, much easier to be on the opposition than it is to be in power. As soon as you get in power, you're up there to be knocked down. And, and it don't matter who supported you. They'll soon turncoat and start going in against you if you don't do what they thought you were going to do.
But especially if it comes out that you're doing exactly what you've been criticising people before you for doing.
Yeah.
But they just, when they're asked about it, it's just this.
I think he was at the conference the other day, and he was going on about how they're going to introduce this scheme with £20 million. And the bloke said, "Hang on a minute, the Conservatives were going to do that anyway if they were in power. So it's not your idea. You've just took on their idea and said you're going to do it. Oh yes, but we're in power." And he went, "That's not what I'm saying. You're claiming it's your idea and your party's idea, but they were going to do it anyway. It was in their manifesto." Didn't answer the question.
And even worse, when it's in their manifesto, you criticised it, and now suddenly it's a good idea.
It's a good idea, and you're doing it. Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't get involved in politics because, to me, I think you live your life, and if you let it drag you down too much, it would just overtake your life completely.
Well, most of the time you can let it sort of. You can just look at it and think, what's that about? But now and then it does, unfortunately, come to us and hit home. But like I said, you just look at things. Talk about a soap opera. You just couldn't make the stuff up half the time, and it's. But
I mean, it's a strange world. Not just here, right at the moment, right across the world. It's just such a strange place.
Well, these things are, it's a whole different subject about what may happen, but So we've had a moment about the politicians and talked about the sport and disabled sport. Like I say, if you want to get in touch with me to let me know if you'd like to get involved with helping out any disabled people that would like to do sport, then you can email me, simonhill_6@hotmail.com, or put a comment on the podcast when I release the podcast episode. And also if you want something to be discussed in Comeback Common Sense, or just have an insane story to share, because we haven't. I'll do one of those next time because we haven't done one of those for a while. But
I mean, there must be people, disabled people, blind people that have had loads of experiences, haven't they? That highlight that we haven't really moved as far ahead as people think that we have, in a way.
The trouble is, and I've talked about it on this show already. There's a lot of goodwill. I believe that, but it's the reality of having to do something. You can't just fill in a form and say, right, we're disability confident, or we've ticked this box. Most of us need physical assistance, as in, I might be able to get myself to, I don't know, a gym, a swimming pool, whatever, but then getting in and actually doing what you've gone there to do, safely, and not doing any damage, risking any risk to yourself or others. Because don't get me wrong, I get it. Of course, a blind person blundering around a gym. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know some blind people that would be brave or daft enough to do it, but I'm not one of them. Yes, you could hurt yourself or hurt someone else. That's a fact. I get it. But equally, it just requires a human help that would open up so many more opportunities. And and like I say, I don't know, but so many disabled people will end up overweight, or not in the best of health, not because they haven't necessarily got the desire to do something active, but because they just simply aren't blessed. Some are blessed with family or people who are always around, then they'll take them for a walk, or whatever they want to do. But that's great, that's fine. But we're not all blessed with that. Some of us aren't close to our family, or live alone, and so and then it seems like, and in my case, the friends I've got, they've now got partners, wives, children,
And they've got lives, haven't they?
And they just haven't got the time, and that's just the reality. And it's that element of choice that we don't necessarily have. Choosing to do what we want to do when we'd like to do it. It's relying on other on when someone else is available, or worst of all, not being able to do it at all. The familiar and comforting chimes of Big Ben telling us that, unfortunately, we've run out of time for this episode of A Blind Insight. But thank you for listening. I hope you've found it interesting, entertaining. But whatever your thoughts, then I'd love to hear from you. So please either comment on the comments page on the podcast page, or email me directly, simonhill_6@hotmail.com. And if I could ask you, people to take something away from this episode, it would be, if you have got the luxury of being able to see and enjoy being active or doing active things, then think about if you would like to help someone who hasn't got the ability to see and doesn't find it so easy to access gyms or simply go for a swim or a cycle or whatever it may be. And it can make the world a difference if you could give them your time and help us get active. And again, if you want any topics to be discussed in Comeback Common Sense, then let me know those as well. Or if you've got a crazy story to share, always enjoy hearing crazy stories. Until next time, take care and stay safe and sane.